let's talk about the single most important factor in gardening success: timing. And here's the thing, it has almost nothing to do with what the calendar says. It's about learning to read the actual signals from your environment. And once you make that shift, well, it changes everything.
So why is it so frustrating? You put in the work, you follow the general advice, but the results are just all over the place. You're not alone. It's an incredibly common problem, and it almost always comes from a simple misunderstanding of what your garden is actually paying attention to. You see this, right? And your first instinct is, oh, it needs water right now. But what if the real problem isn't a lack of water today, but a decision you made 3 months ago? What if watering just a little bit every day in the spring created a weak, shallow root system that was basically destined to fail the moment a summer heat wave hit? Or maybe this one feels familiar. You fertilize the lawn in spring, you're expecting this amazing green carpet, and instead, it just looks tired. Why? Well, it's often because you're reacting in April to a problem that really should have been prevented back in October. And this one's a real heartbreaker. Your favorite plants, they come back, but they're just a shadow of what they were last year. Look, these things aren't just bad luck. They're not because you have a black thumb. They are all symptoms of a timing problem. And that brings us to the core idea. Your garden has no idea that it's May. It doesn't care. What it does know is when the soil is warm enough for its roots to grow, and it knows when the last frost has finally passed. Shifting your mindset from the calendar to your actual climate, that is the entire game. So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll talk about why just going by the calendar fails. I'll give you a simple framework with 2 frost anchors. We'll dive into the soil temperature rule, lay out a 4-season plan, cover the big mistakes to avoid, and finally, show you how to build a garden that's truly predictable. Okay, believe it or not, your entire gardening year can be organized around just 2 key dates. These are your anchors. If you can lock these in, everything else starts to click into place. Anchor number 1 is your last spring frost. Think of this as the starting pistol for the main growing season. Planting tender things like tomatoes, peppers, or basil before this date, it's a total gamble. But after this date, the odds swing way, way into your favor. And anchor number 2 is the first fall freeze. This is the finish line. It tells you when the season for your annuals is officially over and when it's time to get sensitive plants protected. It's the big deadline for those final harvests. So the time between these 2 dates, that's your personal growing season. It's not just May to September. For you, it might be mid-April to late October. For someone else, it could be late May to early September. This window is unique to your specific location, and knowing it is step 1 to mastering your timing. Okay, so here's your first piece of homework. Go look up the average frost dates for your zip code. Your local university cooperative extension service is a fantastic resource, or you can just search for the USDA Plant Hardiness Zone map. Find those 2 dates and write them down. All right, so you've got your anchors. Now let's go a layer deeper, because timing isn't just about the air, it's about the ground. The soil is what's really running the show. Let's start with 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, that feels cold to us, right? But for cool season seeds like lettuce, spinach, or kale, that's the green light. That's when they know it's time to wake up. Planting them in soil colder than that is a waste of time. They'll just sit there waiting. Now, for your lawn, the magic window for root growth is between 50 and 65 degrees. This happens twice a year, once in the spring and again in the fall. And honestly, the fall window is the most important one. It is the absolute best time for things like aeration and feeding to build a strong foundation for the entire next year. And for those summer vegetables we all love, 60 degrees is the number. It's so tempting. You get that one beautiful sunny day in May, and you want to rush those tomatoes out there. But if the soil is still in the 50s, those plants will just stall out. Waiting for that 60-degree soil makes all the difference. Now, on the other end of the scale, you've got extreme heat. This one actually is about air temperature. Once it gets over 95 degrees or so, tomato pollen can become sterile. The plant itself looks fine, but it just stops making new fruit. It's not sick, it's just paused. As soon as the heat breaks, it'll start up again. So you see the big difference here, right? Air temperature jumps all over the place. It can be really misleading. Soil temperature, though, that's what dictates what the plant's roots are actually doing. It's what drives performance. Honestly, a simple $10 soil thermometer is one of the smartest tools you can own. Okay, we've got our anchors, we understand soil temperature. So how does this all come together into a practical plan you can actually use? all year round. Check this out. It breaks the whole year into a logical flow. And notice how the jobs build on each other. Early in the year, January to March, it's all about prep, pruning things before the sap starts flowing, starting seeds indoors by counting backwards from your frost date. Then you flip to the fall, September and October, and the focus is on renewal. That's not cleanup, that's setting the stage for next spring's success. Every quarter has a clear purpose. Now, knowing what to do is half the battle. Knowing what not to do and when not to do it, that's just as critical. Let's run through a few common timing mistakes that cause huge problems down the line. Each of these is a simple cause and effect. You skip that layer of mulch in the spring, well, you're basically inviting a summer-long war with weeds. You water a little bit every day. You're actually training your plant's roots to be weak and lazy. You ignore your soil in the fall, you're giving next year's garden a weak starting point. And hitting your plants with nitrogen fertilizer late in the season, that just encourages flimsy new growth that gets zapped by the first freeze. These aren't just chores, they're strategic moves. So how do we put it all together? It really comes down to a shift in your whole approach. A great garden isn't built in one heroic weekend of backbreaking work. It's built by a series of small, smart, correctly timed decisions that add up season after season. And this quote just nails it. It really is about all those little things. It's the soil test in March, putting down the mulch in May, watering deeply in July, and adding compost in October. Each one of those actions builds on the last, creating a garden that gets healthier and more resilient over time. And that's really the bottom line. You can spend your time reacting, constantly putting out fires trying to save wilting plants, or you can get ahead of it. A predictable, successful garden is built on timing, not reaction. You're no longer just trying to fix problems, you're preventing them from ever happening in the first place.